And good evening, all. Welcome to another episode. Obviously, this is a trigger warning again. We're discussing why not everyone can gain access. Obviously, we'll elaborate on what that means. Please do subscribe, share, whatever, you know the drill. We've got Nick. How are you?
Yeah, good. Busy day, but no, all good, all good.
And we've got Ashley, who's going to be probably going on a rant as usual.
I will not. It'll be fine.
And we're joined by Kerry. Hi. Right. So, not everyone can gain access. So, first question before I go to what Ashley's got me hooked on. What does this title mean to you from your personal experience?
I could start. I think for me, I find that that in some ways, I think there's almost like a pressure, whether that's self-induced, with social media to share everything. You do share everything about your life, and on social media, it's very easy to end up doing that. And I think, I find that I've got to be selective what I share. What do I give people access to? What do I keep personal? What do I keep separate? What's work? I think that's one area that really resonates with me with giving access is being selective of what I share on social media, because it can be all too easy just to. Some people share everything, don't they? Absolutely everything. And I think,
yes.
For me, that's definitely a big thing about access.
Yeah. Ashley?
For me, it would be family. I like what you said, Nick, as far as like the social media piece. And while that's true, I think that's also like so I'm one that shares a lot on social media. And I'm very also selective of what I share on social media. Again, that goes to, not everybody needs to know every gory detail, right, of your life, good, bad, or indifferent. But then I think it's also family, especially toxic family. There are only select family members that I am friends with on social media, and that's for a reason, right? But I think it's just in general that not everybody gets to have access to you if they're toxic. And it's okay to have that separation.
Absolutely. Hello, Robert, all the way from Canada. So, Kerry, your first question, and this is to everybody as well, but I'm directing this at Kerry. I've asked this to her before earlier, and she couldn't give an answer. But now she's got pressure on her because now she has to answer. How can we tell the difference between healthy boundaries and emotional avoidance?
I don't know how to answer that. To me, a boundary is how I protect myself. And I think that I've got some rather big boundaries because I don't let anybody get too close because of past issues I've had. So, to me, having my boundaries means protecting my mental health, and that's what's important to me, protecting me.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And the emotional avoidance?
I don't get emotionally attached to people.
Except you, Adam.
Oh, come on. Come on. No, do you two want to pick up on what she said?
Yeah, I could jump in. I think setting boundaries is a part of is a healthy thing to do. And I think it's healthy to do it for our, for having good relationships, for our mental health. I think setting boundaries, is something we should all do, And And certainly to practice family, definitely with my own 10-year-old son, but I'm very careful about sharing photos of him online. I very rarely do, very rarely post much about him. With myself, I think, was it emotional avoidance? Did you say, was that the expression?
Yeah.
I guess balanced out with that is, there's some, being able to sort of open up and to have quality relationships with people. You need to, you got to have a level of sharing and a level of trust, which comes obviously as you get to know people. So I think nowadays we have thousands of connections on social media, but who's actual quality friends who you can trust and open up to, and lower those boundaries is going to be a lot less. So I guess it goes a bit back to being selective, but yeah, definitely I think it's important with the right people to try and build that trust, have that trust, because that's a good thing, and lower those boundaries and for the right people and share. And perhaps, but I have found that hard at times, but I think, I definitely think I do. I'm quite careful about doing that, but I think I do it with people I'm close to. I think that's an important part of quality relationships. It's that's my thoughts. I'm not sure if Ashley.
Okay, repeat the question.
What's the difference between a boundary and
a healthy boundary and emotional avoidance?
So
pick up on what Kerry and Nick have said.
Yes. Well, and that's why I wanted you to repeat it, just because, soaking everything in. So honestly, like the emotional avoidance, let's talk about that first. So emotional avoidance, whether it's because of conflict in a relationship or I just don't want to feel the feelings, right? So you avoid the hard conversations, you avoid the topic, you avoid the person. That's not a boundary. You might think that it's a boundary, but really in reality, it's avoidance because you don't want to feel it. Now, it can also be like the emotional avoidance of setting a boundary. Like it could be two different things. And where I'm going with this is I'm avoiding the emotion because of past experiences. I don't want to get hurt again. Maybe it's by a repeat offender, right? Then in reality, you're setting up the emotional boundary for yourself, right? So you can be in that avoidance and call it a boundary, but it's just avoidance because you just don't want to deal with it. You just want to sweep it under the rug and think that everything is okay. But it can also be a boundary where then you are setting that emotional boundary. You're not having an open conversation with the person because you could talk to them until you're blue in the face and you're not going to get anywhere. So you're creating that emotional boundary for yourself as a protection mechanism of you've hurt me once, shame on you. You've hurt me twice, shame on me. You're not going to hurt me a third time. Because I think all of us have within us that ability to give people second chances most times. Not all the time, depending on the severity of the hurt. But we try to give people a second chance. And then they prove to us who they are in that second chance and they break the trust again. So now you put up the emotional boundary. Invisible or well known, that's up to you. But I think it can really be both.
Absolutely. And that comes to this next question. And I think it has got to do with pain and boundaries. Why do some relationships or friendships feel entitled to our time, energy, or emotions? Which I believe comes to boundaries, which does add on to that question is, do boundaries protect us or do they cause more damage?
they can do either.
Mm-hmm.
Because a healthy boundary would obviously protect you from getting hurt, being in pain again. But then having, I wouldn't say unhealthy boundary, I would say
Restriction, maybe.
I would say having too many boundaries
Yeah.
is going to obviously affect the relationship, because then if somebody is trying to get close to build that trust, build that friendship, they're not going to be able to. So if you've got too many boundaries up and you're keeping people too far away, they're going to feel like you don't want to get close, you don't want to trust me and all that, and they can give up and obviously then just leave.
Mm.
So boundaries can be both.
Yeah. Ashley?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, they can be both, but it's also
it's like a boundary towards ourselves as well, which doesn't involve anyone.
Yes, it can be damaging because, well, and I look at boundaries sometimes too as expectations. Like, you have expectations of people, and when they don't meet or fulfill those expectations, we can take it personally, when we have to remember that they are human, and not one of us, even the four of us in this room, not one of us is ever going to meet an expectation perfectly, or all of them, or whatever, right? There are going to be times that we are just ultimately going to let each other down, period. Because again, we are human beings. Mm-hmm. But I think it also allows us then to set different expectations or different boundaries with people, right? So, just having willy-nilly boundaries can create chaos, right? I mean, Adam, there's sometimes that you call me that I'm like, hey, I can't talk right now, right? That's setting a boundary. But then it's hey, what did you need? Like, in a message versus a phone call. Yeah. But again, it's setting a boundary. Like, I'm not, so it's keeping those boundaries, in place for yourself, whether it be with your family, your business, like personally, it can be so many different things. And yes, they can be a detriment if you have so many walls up and you're not letting anybody in. Like, they're going to call you cold. They're going to throw
they can call you toxic, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, because they haven't been able to breach, if you will, the boundary, right? But it's because you are so protective of your emotions and just everything that they have to figure out a way to be able to work around that. But it also comes down to your communication level. Yes. So if you're not communicating with people like, hey, I know I have walls up and I've got boundaries set, and it's sometimes really hard to read like where I'm at in this whole game of boundaries. But I just want you to know that it has nothing to do with you personally. It's because I've been hurt so many times. I have a lot of boundaries up, and it's going to take me a lot to be able to trust you. Like, because so many people have hurt me and broken my trust and all the things. So ultimately, it again goes back to the communication that we've talked about over and over the course of the last couple of weeks. Because if you're not communicating that with people, then yeah, they're going to throw boundaries right back at you. And then you're like at a stalemate, and then the friendship or relationship breaks and you part ways. And then you're left wondering, well, what the hell did I do? Because you couldn't let people in.
Absolutely. Now, I believe we've all experienced some sort of rejection in our life. So, how do our past experiences, and this is where I'm diving into all of our pasts now, how do our past experiences, trauma or rejection, shape the way we give access to others? and that includes ourselves as well, because we don't give ourselves enough credit sometimes, do we?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think in the ideal world, we would approach every situation, every person we meet with an open mind. But the reality is, our experiences shape us or create us. So, if you've only ever had short-term relationships where the other person's ended it, then your view will be, well, all relationships will be short and the other person will end it. But if you've had long relationships generally and they've lost, whatever your experience will be, that will inevitably shape your view of how something is. Whatever it is, relationships, or if you've had a great career full of great well-paying jobs, that's what work is great. That's what it is. But if you only had short-term work and been out work, your view is, so whatever your experience is, that's what will shape your view of how something is and how something will be. It'll shape your reality. And yeah, definitely it's something, a mindset thing that trying to sort of shape, separate what's happened to us from thinking that's what will always happen to us.
Yeah.
And I think that can be the challenge, so if we've had some big rejections or either one big rejection, a lot of rejections, trying to sort of separate that and have the mindset, well, it does not mean that the next relationship will be the same as the last ones. That does not mean that the next relationship will be as toxic as the last big one I had. That's a challenge, isn't it? It's cause we've all had most people have had good experiences, and a lot of people have had obviously some really bad experiences, and it's what shapes us, and it's trying to sort of have an awareness that because things have not gone well in a certain area, it does not automatically mean it'll repeat itself. So yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. I had that when I was younger. I had some challenging relationships, and it shaped my I had that thought about, well, this is what it's going to be like, almost dooming it before it happened, and then I had a really great relationship for a long time, and I realized, well, that was wrong. Because I proved myself wrong by having a great relationship. So sometimes it just takes one good experience then to prove that actually that's that sort of way of thinking that it'll always be. Well, it's not always the case.
Yeah,
it's definitely a mindset challenge.
I see your point with it, because obviously for years, Kerry's parents haven't accepted me.
Sure.
And obviously I understand why. Do I accept that? Of course. Did I at the time? No. But they didn't get to know me from the get-go. It took them to us getting married for them to actually say, all right, you're basically sticking together. So it's, what do we do now? Basically they forfeited that power. And yeah, it's that sense of connection that I never had growing up. So it's, when I got with Kerry, it's like I went to go meet the parents. So I'm like, hi. Like I was saying hi to them, even though I was really depressed and isolated. And yeah, no, that was the rejection. Do I care? No.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like Nick. In my childhood, I had a lot of rejection because of what experiences I had growing up.
Sure.
So now in my mind, that's what's going to happen all the time. Nobody's going to love me. Nobody's going to want me and everything like that. Nobody cares about me. And that's the voices that go through my head pretty much daily. Unfortunately, therapy's not cured them voices because they're still with me, but I can contain them to a certain degree. But obviously, with Adam, he's proven that there are people out there that will accept me. I mean, he's been a complete and utter wanker with me at times, and he has, but he has always been there for me, and I can't fault him on that. Obviously, you have been a wanker, though, but I can fault you on that, Mums.
I still am.
I think No, I was going
now
to say, I think, sorry, I think that's what you're saying, Kerry. I think, sometimes, if we have, really sort of challenging relationships growing up with family or partners, then in our mind, we have a battle sometimes, and when about that's what relationships will be like, and then if any time we try and overcome that, the voice, someone's voice will say, well, look, you've look at all your relationships have been disaster, or look how you were treated before, how can you think? And it's that sort of battle of conscience where you have to sort of one voice saying, well, look, you've had all these failed relationships, look how your childhood was, and it's that sort of inner voice that sometimes it can be challenging to overcome and have a louder voice to prove it wrong. But
whereas with me, I've got 4 different voices in my head, and they're pretty much all telling me the same thing. If my own dad can abandon me, everybody else can abandon me. If my own dad can walk away from me, then anybody else can walk away from me. No one gives a fuck about me and all that. And sometimes, the voices do get bad. But on my good days, I can obviously contain them and be all right.
Yeah.
And your response, Ashley?
Well, I think even in my own rejection over the years, or pain from other people, relationships, that kind of thing, it has caused me to sometimes, I would say, be more guarded around certain people. But it's taken a lot of inner work as well to make the connections of, this is what triggers me. I don't need to look at my husband as my dad. My dad rejecting me as a teenager, or just certain situations like that. My husband is not my dad. My husband is my husband.
Yes.
So it's a lot of awareness, and it's a lot of inner work to even get to that point. But I think, yes, that our past rejections can definitely make us be more guarded, especially in family relationships. And we end up carrying that into our marriages and really intimate relationships, because we haven't done the inner work for healing, or it's very easy to get triggered because of rejection. And it might not even be that person is rejecting you. It's how we're perceiving it.
And that comes... Go on, Nick.
No, I was going to say, I think that's a really good point Ashley made about perceiving it. I think, our reality is what we perceive it to be. And a lot of times we interpret things not, obviously we're subject to everything we see. We have our own prejudices and filters. And I think, what we perceive, how we perceive things is not always actually how they are. So, I think it's...
Absolutely. And I was actually going to ask the next question. How do we handle relationships where one person wants deeper access than the other? But I think we've already answered that.
By communication.
Exactly. All right, then. Something that I don't see people talking about. Why do some friendships change or fade when boundaries are introduced? I think that's a good one.
Because they've never been told no.
What the fuck off?
They don't know what a boundary looks like. Because they've never had them put in place. So when it's finally set or made clear, this is what the boundary is, they don't know how to respond or react to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. Next one then. Obviously, Ashley, you've been talking about pleasing in your videos. I've been
People
watching.
pleasing?
Don't worry.
I know.
Okay. How do we release guilt when choosing ourselves over pleasing others?
That's a good question, actually.
That's a brilliant question. And I know Ashley's going to do a live about this after. I can see it.
Starting, Ashley.
Okay, say it again.
How do we release guilt when choosing ourselves over pleasing others?
How do we release guilt?
You have to look after yourself before you can look after somebody else. You have to make sure your own self is okay before obviously you can please somebody else.
I think I'm more targeting, without sounding sexist and all that, but it's more mothers, isn't it? Because they obviously put themselves like second or even last because they've got like the housework, they've got the kids to sort out, etc., etc., etc. And then when, for example, husbands or partners come along and they say, right, you need to look after yourself, a big probably dispute, a conflict happens, and then that mother starts to feel guilty. Or maybe the partner starts to feel guilty for asking them to look after themselves.
I mean,
If that makes sense.
I mean, time. Go back to a bit about time. Time is the one thing we own, our own time, and it's such a precious thing. And how we choose to spend that time. We have so many demands on our time with work and perhaps children and partner and time for ourselves. And how do we? If we please people, perhaps we give too much of our time away to others and don't leave enough time for ourselves. And self-care is how, I guess, part of self-care is managing your time so that it includes priority for enough time to do the things we need to do and have time for ourselves. And I think sometimes if we're pleasing others, we're giving perhaps all our time to spend with other people, to do things for other people. I think there's something about prioritizing time for ourselves and how we do that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about getting that balance between making sure you're okay. So going for a shower, just colouring, or journaling, or doing something for you, going and buying yourself something or whatever. And then obviously sorting kids out, husbands out, partner out, friends out.
Yeah.
So, now we all know we're living in a toxic world. We all know that. So, what does protecting your energy really mean in everyday life?
For me, it's I don't speak to many people. I don't go out very often. That's protecting me because I'm not giving myself a chance to mingle with too many people because then they can't get close. That protects me. I prefer to stay in the little bubble that I'm in because the bubble that I'm in understands me and doesn't hurt me.
But as good as that is, there's protecting, but then there's isolating can do damage though, isn't there?
Yeah. I'm doing too much protection over me at the moment.
Yeah.
I think, okay, let's just, this whole entire conversation, like, it's a double-edged sword and very much can be a double-edged sword, right?
Yes.
You can completely isolate yourself 100% where nobody gains access to you. And then you can make it where it's a select group of people that gain access to you, right? Not everyone gets access. And then you can have the opposite effect where everybody gains access to you, right? So I think there is Kerry, I like how you said before balance. I hate the word balance, though, because what is balance, right? Other than literally looking at the justice scale, there is no balance, right? I like to say, like, how can you find harmony in the relationships, in the day-to-day? Like, how can it all ebb and flow together where you are protecting your energy, right? Again, that goes back to not everybody gains access. And it also goes to the whole people-pleasing concept, right? Of whatever it is that you're doing, whether it be for your self-care, whether it be the boundaries you're setting up for yourself, your family, your children, it doesn't matter. That's how you protect your energy, because you're not letting everybody in, right? But the other thing is remembering that not everybody is going to like the boundary. There could be one week I'm setting boundaries with my husband, right? No, I'm not doing that, right? Or I've got this to do. I can't do that for you right now. You're going to have to wait. Like, to me, that's setting a boundary. But he might not like it. Okay, that's not a me issue. That's a him issue. Yeah. So it's remembering that not everybody is going to like the boundaries that you set. And that's not a you issue. That isn't for you to control. That isn't for you to determine if they do or they don't. It's a matter of you setting the boundary and sticking to it. That's where we falter. We set the boundary and then we get guilted enough or poked and prodded at enough where it's a fine, whatever, I'll do it anyway. And then it becomes this begrudging, resentful, bitter situation because you didn't honor you and the boundary you set. So it isn't another person issue. Well, it is, because they poked and prodded because they know that you're going to cave. Again, that's on you for not honoring your boundaries along the way. Because the more you break boundaries, the more people see that and they know that's your weakness. So they'll hit you exactly where they need to make it so you cave. Again, that comes down to a people-pleasing mentality that we have. We get guilt-tripped. It's well, grandma might not make it to the next Christmas, or it's you should really spend time with XYZ because they don't get to see the kids very often. That's not a me issue. That's a them issue.
Thank you.
But then they guilt you enough where then you feel obligated to let your boundaries go. Yep.
So isn't there a saying where
she's not finished? Shush.
It's literally a cyclical thing, because it all comes back to who are you honoring in the scenario? And that's what I've been talking a lot about, especially this week. How do you honor yourself? Because if you keep breaking boundaries and making excuses, that's not honoring to you. That's telling your brain you're weak. You can't hold a boundary. People will run all over you. And you start this spiral process in your brain of, well, I'm just a crappy human being. I don't know how to set boundaries with people. I break them all the time. I get rejected. I get this. I get that. Because you're not honoring yourself in the boundaries you set.
I think there's also something there, it's hard sometimes when you're under pressure, to break boundaries. But I think if you can manage to be, consistent, if you say something, you stick to it, you communicate clearly your boundaries, and people know, well, this person always has this time for themselves. They stick to it. then they're more likely perhaps to respect you, because they'll say, well, at least this person, we know we stand with that person, you know, we know that they say what they mean, you know, they're consistent, they're more likely to respect you. I think if you set boundaries, then you keep breaking them and you're not consistent what you say with your actions, then people might not respect you. Might say, well, they say this, but they often change their mind. We know actually, you know, they'll give their time in, you know. I think actually, you know, it's hard to sometimes stick to your boundaries, but I think, you know, it's healthy relationships about quality and obviously you respect. If you treat people respectfully, then people respect you. If you and part of people respecting you, I think, is if you communicate clearly, but also you stand your ground and you're consistent. People respect you more than if you
Yeah, and obviously, there's been times in our relationship before we got married. Obviously, me and Adam have agreed, you know, this night of the week and this night of the week and this night of the week, that's for us. But then it was certain people but we want Adam's attention that night. And then Adam was like, no. But then he caved in anyway. And it was like, that's going to cause issues between you and me. And they don't have that respect. They don't respect our relationship and the fact that we need time together as a couple when the kids are in bed asleep, sort of thing. And obviously now we're clear. This night and this night, that's our time. And nothing gets involved in them nights. That's our time. That's what we do. Nothing, you know, technology away, that's our time.
That's good. Anyway,
obviously I'm learning about BPD because obviously Kerry's got that, and I didn't understand it, and obviously some part of me still doesn't understand it, but I'm reading a book about it to understand like strategies and all that. That book. I Hate You, Please Don't Leave.
Okay, great.
So I'm reading that, and I'm actually almost finished the book. So Kerry's still got that fear. Obviously, she'll deny it, but she's got fear of leaving the house because she doesn't like people. Now, I see that as an excuse, but obviously, it is a boundary that is to protect it. But I see it as isolation. So I came up with a suggestion, and obviously, I know there's a saying that choose 4 people in your life to get out. Just 4 people, that's it. And connect with them. I've actually offered to take her, if we can find one, a group for BPD only. And I'll even come along.
Sure.
Like, so I can understand that as well. So, but we haven't found anything yet. But it shows I respect the boundary. And I'm helping her overcoming that fear at the same time.
So is it positive?
It's not a fear of people. It's a case of I've been hurt too many times in the past. I've let people in, and ultimately it's me and my mental health that's took a hit when that relationship was turned sour. And the last time it happened last year, my mental health took a dip to the point where I was thinking about ending my life, and I don't want to get back to that point. I don't. You know, I've been to that point, and it's not something I want to do again. I said to myself last time, I won't let myself get back to that point, and I very nearly touched that point, and I won't let it happen. This is why now I don't let people get too close, because I've been hurt so many times in the past. As soon as people find out I have BPD, they start, in my own experience, they start treating me differently.
Like I am.
You're learning about it and asking me questions, which is fine. But then it's people learn about that and they start treating me differently.
I think it's because they don't understand it, or they don't know about it, right? Yeah. So that's where, even for you, again, setting up like massive boundaries, yes, but it's like, hey, let me tell you a little bit about this. If you want to learn more, I can explain this to you like in nugget sizes so it doesn't overwhelm you. But this is the reason why I have a hard time trusting people in relationships and why I have a hard time letting people in friendships. Like those that truly want to learn about it will get curious and they'll ask you questions like, hey, what is it like living with BPD? Like, tell me more about it. I want to learn more about it so I can better understand you and better like, you know, have this dance, if you will, in the relationship. Now, they're probably not going to say that, but like, that's what it is, right? It's this back and forth. Like, how do we communicate? How can I support you in this? And maybe sometimes it's literally like, if you need somebody to call when you're in one of your episodes or you're having a hard day or whatever it is, like, I can be that for you, but it's also, again, it's about having enough, like, okay, I'm going to let you in a sliver. I'm not going to let you in the whole way, but I'll let you in a sliver, right? And then you're just building those blocks inch by inch. Because, yeah, I think that's a lot of why you've been hurt is because they don't understand it. They might not want to understand it. So then they put their walls up and they're like, peace out. And then you, of course, take it as a rejection and, you know, all the things. Well, you then, I don't need you, right? Because people will like turn away from what they don't know, right? Especially when they're not willing to learn it. Then they're not your people. And that's okay. It's just, it sucks in the interim to be like, well, I really like that person, right? I thought we could have a friendship, whatever, but they don't really want to get to know who I am. Well, then
the real us, they don't want to know that.
And I think when you go into it with that attitude, sometimes of, especially when a relationship severs, it's like, they're not your people. Okay, I'll find the ones that are my people, right? I'll find the ones that I can be vulnerable with, I can be authentic with, I can be my worst self with, and they're my people. Like, they're there in the trenches of the ugly, and they still love me through it, right?
I'm glad you mentioned that because, obviously, with me going to AA, I've been in 3 different WhatsApp groups connected to that. And those 3 have been toxic towards me. At first, I thought they were brilliant and supportive and everything like that. Then it turned sour. But now I'm in a couple of them that are absolutely fantastic. But do I have boundaries up? Of course I do. Will I always have them up? Of course I will. But I'm learning to lower them because that's about coping and healing. And the only way I can heal is by being vulnerable and honest.
And I guess also, with yours, Adam, you know, as you share your story, there's going to be inevitably some people, who aren't as supportive. They hear it or react badly, but that should never stop you from sharing it because most people, I think, are very not impressed is the wrong word, but very, very, you know, what you've achieved over, you know, through your journey. Absolutely. So I think that, you know, some people reacting perhaps negatively should not put us off because, you know, from reaching to the people who will be there to support us and hear it, you know, because I think, you know, if you look in the, you know, UK, a lot of mental health conditions and things, you know, looking back sort of decades ago, we didn't talk about them in the society, and then they were more stigmatized, and they only were less stigmatized by talking about it, but people didn't talk about it because they were stigmatized. So it's kind of a catch-22, but obviously as a society we talk about a lot of things more, and then they're less stigmatized. So it's kind of I think you've got to be careful.
And I know there's people out there that are not going to want to listen to my story or they're going to disagree with what I say. And to be honest, it goes back to what Ashley says. If people don't want to listen to my story, that's not a me problem because I'm going to keep telling it. I'm going to keep singing about it. That's their problem. If they don't want to listen to it, fuck off.
But I don't listen to your story. Because
Fuck off. I'm joking.
I've lived it. I've lived
Well,
through
and
it.
that's the thing. Like for you, Kerry, like you are part of the story.
Exactly.
Like the two
I've
of
lived it
you,
with him.
you've lived it and you are part of the story. Like, and that's the beautiful piece. Like, that's where I really love social media. Because yes, people can attack you. They can attack you even in person. It doesn't really quite make a difference. But at the end of the day, this is where like specific groups or like just your social media is your social media, right? And people love to say that they're like their profile is their personal whatever, right? No, it's not. If it has a little public thing, it ain't private. I could do a Google search on you right now and I would find you, right? So that's one of the things that one of the coaches I work with, she tells people all the time, and they have such a hard time to get through their heads that it is not private. If I can do a search on you, it is very much public, and that is your public space where people find you, right? But that's what you use the platform for. Yeah. Here is awareness on BPD. Here is awareness on whatever. Do you know how many friends I have on social media that are within my coaching circles that I have never met in person? But we can literally message one another and like they're in my circle, right? They don't know everything about my life, but I would trust them to tell them certain things, right? But that's where you bring the awareness is, hey guys, today I'm going to do a post on BPD. This is what it looks like. This is what a manic episode looks like. This is what the voices in my head look like, right? And then you build connection with people and awareness for people. And that's where you start growing friendships. You could have somebody that's your next door neighbor that suffers from BPD that you have no idea they actually do, but they follow you on social media, right? And now you build a relationship and a connection.
So I think attitudes towards say BPD will only change if people talk about it. And it's incredibly hard to talk about it, but then attitudes will never change, and unless you talk about it. So it's kind of like catch-22. But I think it's I sympathise with what you just described, Kerry. But I guess it's saying what Ash said. You got to. It's about owning your. It's not seeing it as a weakness or problem you got, but this is part of you. This is your story. This is who you are. Yes. I guess like Adam is doing, with his journey, and he's own, this is him. He's owning.
We're doing it together.
Yeah, and I guess both of it. The BPD and everything. Your sort of stories entwined. But I guess it's trying to sort of moving to a point of this is who I am. And if you want to find out more, I'll tell you. And there's always going to be people who don't listen. But
and that's where you never know what opportunities can open up for you along the way when you share your story, right? I mean, obviously, like, yes, Adam, with you having the Mental Health Warriors like platform, and we have all this space for Kerry to be able to share more, right? When you can. But at the end of the day, like, what if it opens you up to your own podcast? What if it opens you up to other podcasts? What if it opens you up to speaking engagements? And I know you're probably thinking, are you out of your flipping mind?
This could be an opportunity.
I did.
It could be an opportunity.
A couple of years ago, I had a show, and I called myself, what was it, the Warrior Queen?
Yes.
And I invited people on, and I spoke about being an SEN parent and how being an SEN parent affects all aspects of your life. I spoke about mental health, and then I found out I was pregnant with Wyatt, and the problems in my personal life started. So I stepped away from it, and I've never really stepped back.
No.
And obviously that's when I discovered I have BPD.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, there's so many opportunities that the door of speaking about it could open.
Absolutely.
I guess it's you know, I guess we're always assessing this. Is something a threat or is it actually an opportunity? And sometimes we all do this, and I do it sometimes. You know, we see a situation we're not comfortable with, or we're not used to, or we've had a bad experience before, and we automatically see it as a threat. But actually, you know, they can be an opportunity. You know, and it's having the sort of courage to try and take that risk. You know, which opportunities are risks, because you never know how it's going to turn out. Otherwise, it wouldn't be the opportunity.
I'm going to jump in because seen that comment about celebrating my crazy, and that just popped in my head. I love the fact that I'm diagnosed crazy, and I do actually say when people say to me, "Oh, you're the crazy cat lady," because I've got cats, because we've got so many cats, and I'm diagnosed crazy, and I'm happy about it. So yeah. I love saying that about myself, don't I?
Yeah.
So yeah, you can enjoy being crazy. I certainly do sometimes.
Okay.
It's only on my bad days that I think my BPD is bad.
Okay. As we get to the closing stages of this, how does childhood attachment influence who we allow close to us as adults?
Well, I think it goes back to what we've been talking about. Like, where has rejection come in? Where have toxic family members come in, right? So if there's issues when you're a child with certain relatives, parents, like grandparents, whatever that case is, I think it allows you to set those boundaries as an adult of, I'm not going to allow that in my life, or sorry, my dog is barking. Or I'm not going to or I'm not going to allow that in the lives of my children, right? So there are certain things that I've put in my life, especially after having kids, when it comes to family members.
Okay.
And I've talked about this before, but a few Christmases ago was a prime example. When I think my 13-year-old at that time was like 10, maybe 11. And he looked at me and he was like, "Can we leave? I don't want to be around these people anymore." Between the swearing and the drinking and all of just like loud voices, all the things, right? And I'm not saying I'm quiet. I very much am like a loud talker and very emotional sometimes. But shut up, Adam. But it became very apparent that I needed to honor the boundary he was putting in place. He didn't want to be around them. And like, as an adult, that was like I grew up in this toxic environment. Why am I subjecting my children to go through it based off of a tradition?
Yep.
I don't give a shit about your tradition. So now we have very much like, if I want my kids to see my grandmother, which it's usually one time a year at Christmas, we're going to go the day before or a couple days before Christmas, and we're going to bring pizza, and we're just going to have just us and visit with her. That's it. I don't need to be around the whole entire family. There's so much tension you could cut it with a knife. The awkward conversations, the let's stand over here and not talk to anybody and keep our arms crossed and drink a bunch of booze and act stupid. We don't need to do it. My husband and I, we don't drink because his biological mom is an alcoholic and has been his entire life. He doesn't want to have the kids surrounded by that. Now, we do have friends that social drink sometimes, or like 1 or 2, but it's not to get hammered, right? It's not to act a fool. We've also set boundaries when it comes to like weddings. It triggers my husband into his childhood of being around alcoholics, right? So there's certain boundaries that have to be put in place now as an adult that we maybe didn't realize before. But even as we get older, it's okay, we need to honor that. We need to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And if other people aren't and they don't understand it, again, that's a them issue, but this is the boundary we are setting for ourselves.
Yeah, and that's the same situation with me and my mum's sister. I won't call her auntie anymore. So growing up, I was always sent in a taxi to her house whenever my mum was basically wanted us out the way. And she would basically take us to the shop and buy pie and pop and chocolate and sit in front of Judge Judy all day long while she drank and drank and drank. And I'm talking from breakfast time, she would drink alcohol all day long. And when it come to me having Lucas, she wanted to get involved, and it was, nah, not going to happen. I'm not subjecting Lucas to what you put me through. I'm not letting him witness that, because that is just a fat mess. And now I don't have any contact whatsoever with her. And at the start, I did get a lot of grief off my mum. Why have you not let her meet him and anything like that? And she's a fat alcoholic. She's toxic. I don't want anything to do with her. I certainly don't want her around my child. It's not going to happen. So she never met Lucas, and obviously she's never met Tegan or Wyatt for that matter. She's probably seen pictures, but that's about it.
Anyway, so what boundary has changed your life the most? Nick. I have to think myself.
Well, I think okay, well, I'm going to. Okay, it's kind of like a final thoughts thing for me. So, when I was young, my first father left when I was a couple of years, about 3 or 4 years old. Went to Thailand and had a bit of a messy relationship with my mother, and came back and forth. And then my second father passed away when I was quite young, and that just basically, the whole messy thing led me to lose my confidence. I was really chronically shy and no confidence for a long time, and I had a lot of trouble trusting people all through up in teens, up to 20s, and I set a lot of boundaries. And I think there came a point when I realized that actually the most empowering thing would be to not filter everything I said, and just, and to, to be able to have that trust in what I had to say and who I was. And the moment I had that, everything changed. I thought no one wanted to hear what I'd say. Had that thought a long time. Yeah, no one wanted to hear what I'd say. But then the moment I changed and said, well, who cares if they don't want to hear it? I'm going to say it's what I want to say. Then I empowered myself, and that changed. I removed that boundary. And now we're, having gone through that experience of that journey of particularly around the whole confidence thing, the one thing I try and with my own son is give him, one of the most important thing I try to give my son is confidence. I try and always see how I can build up his confidence and his self-belief, because he's quite quiet in some ways, but I don't want him to go for that journey of lack of confidence. So I try and do everything I can to make him a confident boy, who has that self-belief.
Can I just stop? Noah, quiet.
Yes. Well, no, cheeky chappy.
He certainly wasn't quiet when you came here.
No, he's okay. Maybe he's not so quiet. I think. Yeah, he's quite cheeky chappy. He's quiet.
Anyway, I'll listen to the ladies now.
Uh-oh.
Okay. What does healthy access look like for you today? Kerry.
I'd
Sorry.
say about, because obviously there was a boundary between you and me when I first found out about BPD.
Yes.
You was obviously struggling with me telling you I'd been diagnosed with it.
Yeah.
You wanted to know more, and I couldn't give you that because I was learning about it myself.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now, we can have open conversations about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like you're accessing a part of me you haven't accessed before.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Ashley, what would you say to your younger self about access and worth?
I should have asked that one.
I think honestly, it would have been be more selective.
Yeah.
Because I shouldn't say probably, I did give people access that should never have had access to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's also a forgive yourself for it, to be honest, because you can carry that guilt and the shame of who you did give access to you that never should have had it, and the regret and all the things, right? And then that carries into your other relationships. I mean, it did in my marriage. Like, that impacted the early years of our marriage. Fights, all the, bitterness, resentment, all the things. But there was nothing I could do to change those years. So it's a forgiveness of self. And I think it's also a, if there is a specific person that got hurt along the way because of the people that you allowed access to you that should never have had it, it's asking for forgiveness as well.
Yeah.
And maybe not in like a verbal sense. Maybe it's just in like a letter that you don't send and you burn and do that whole type of a thing. But I think ultimately it comes down with the forgiveness of yourself for allowing it to happen, because there's nothing you can do about changing it now. It's the past.
Exactly. Anyone from me? Or shall we end it?
Well, you didn't answer the one about which boundaries you learned the most from.
That one. What boundary have I learned the most?
You haven't.
I'm going to have to hop off, so I've got another show.
Yeah, all right, Nick. Well,
you carry on, guys. You carry on. Don't end it early because of me.
Yeah. Well, we're back on the 5th of February anyway. We're back on the 5th.
All right, great show.
Yeah.
Bye, Nick.
And
See you, Nick.
Right.
I'd say the boundary towards myself, where I learned to accept that what happened to me growing up, it happened, and there's nothing I can do about that. And but I can do something about that now. Do I sit with it, or do I say, right, okay, it happened, but I'm not going to do that to my kids. I'm going to be the best dad I can be, best version of myself for that. So that's mine. That's my best boundary. So there you go. Right, that's the wrap. As I just said, we're back on the 5th of February, so we're having a week off. But I am going to upload an old episode next week. And please share, subscribe, and any final words, ladies?
I don't think so. I think we covered everything.
All right. And there you go. I'll upload the clips over the weekend. So I will see you all later.
Bye.